So today's the 16th of January 2022 and I'm here at Eton Walk, which is next to the Sylvan play area. So this green space is managed by the Exeter City Council, like most of the public parks and spaces. And I'm here today because unfortunately this lovely copper beech tree in front is going to be felled very, very soon. According to this, the 24th of January. So I'll let you read that for yourself. Now, unfortunately, this work is going to go ahead, and you'll see why. So these are what's left of the fruiting spores of giant polypore. Now, unfortunately, this type of fungus is bad news for beech trees because it is a destructive fungus, and beech trees having a shallow root system are more susceptible to wind throw. And a tree this size, especially in an area like this, if it was to fall the wrong way, could quite easily wipe out a car. So there is the health and safety aspect to why the council are doing it. We'll also discuss prevention as well as talk about this fantastic tree. So we'll just have a quick scout of the area so you can see, because it's always good to be able to fully document all of this, because in a week or two this is going to be unfortunately gone. As I said, you've got more of the fruiting bodies there, giant polypore. Again, unfortunately, by the time you've seen the fruiting bodies, it's usually too late, because it's what's underground is what's happening. As we all know, that we're only just beginning to understand what really happens with the mycorrhizal relationships with the other neighbouring trees and plants and other fungi. The network will spread for, well, as you see, there's quite a lot of mature trees thankfully around here, and they'll all connect and help each other. There are other beech trees nearby as well, which we're lucky for. Of course, the biggest concern is that if this destructive fungus is going to spread further. But as I said, I don't get involved with the inspections. I just love trees and like to study them and share my findings and knowledge. So we can't change what's going to happen. Again, public liability, health and safety. This would have been all taken into account by the council and their connected teams. The tree will be felled, and it is such a shame because it's a beautiful tree. Again, I don't know the planting age. I don't know which nursery it would have come from. Being completely honest, when it comes to our records for tree planting in Exeter, they're not great. So I don't know is the answer. I do have some information. So the circumference of the trunk at breast height is approximately 3 metres. So the circumference, again using a very long tape measure, is all the way round. Diameter would be just straight across, but it's approximately 3 metres in circumference, which is a good size, and you can see that. Regarding the height of the tree, as best as I could measure it with my long tape measure and calculator, and my eye height, about 1.65, it's just over 30 metres in height. Again, please allow for a few metres here and there, because I don't have a 500-pound measuring tool. I have a long tape and my calculator on a phone. So, like I say, circumference 3 metres approximately, and the height is approximately 30 metres. The other thing you'll notice straight away is all the lichen, or lichen depends where you come from, and moss. This is one thing that always gets completely missed when they value a tree. So the biodiversity on this particular tree, as an example, is tremendous. You could treat this like multiple rainforests. Again, to small insects and mammals, etc., the nature value it gives is, we couldn't measure it. We just, unfortunately, our current understanding of trees is we just look at them as a big object, try and give them a rough value and move on. The replanting strategy, being completely honest, in my opinion, is archaic. It doesn't take into account a combination of maturity and the biodiversity it currently offers, and also how many years this tree's already been here, helping to keep the atmosphere and environment clean, as well as just making the place look very beautiful. What will probably happen is they'll plant 2, maybe 4 small trees if we're very, very lucky, somewhere nearby. There is plenty of space, luckily, around here, so the replanting shouldn't be a problem. But what tends to happen, the replanting is done with trees that will never ever be allowed to get to this size, which is such a shame. They'll probably plant, I don't know, maybe small rowan trees or small lime trees, but even if they did replant with beech trees, they'll never be allowed to get this size. But anyway, that's the replanting strategy. Again, that is my opinion. I just think that for a tree this size, you'd need to be planting at least 10 small trees weeks before this tree's being felled. Because that's the other problem as well. We're very good at getting rid of trees. When it comes to replanting, we're a bit slow on the uptake. If you know you're going to take a big tree like this down, which is going to greatly reduce the biodiversity of any area, surely, logically, you try and offset that loss by replanting the young trees weeks, if not months, before the event happens. But all that will happen is they'll probably do the replanting, I don't know, 6 to 12 months later. Again, my opinion of that, but I just think that's ridiculous. But hey ho, as I said, it's not the blame isn't to do with the green spaces and trees team of Exeter. They actually work really hard. It's the processes and policies that are maintained by government and local authority. So you can thank Conservative and Labour for that. Combination of lack of funding, lack of support, means that they're restricted to what manpower and resources they can do for the environment. So anyway, as I said, if you want to make things better for Exeter, being completely honest, you need to vote for the Green Party, because they'll actually start making things happen. It's better for the environment and not just for people and profit. So anyway, I've gone on a tangent there. This lovely copper beech tree. So Fagus sylvatica purpurea is its scientific name, if you really wanted to know, but most people will know and love this tree by its common name, copper beech, sometimes purple beech. And the reason for that is, unlike the common beech or European beech, which I don't think there's any at this particular green space, common beech, the leaves are the typical green colour. Again, lovely tree, but with copper beech, the leaves are a sort of offset purple colour. So we've covered the basics, cover a couple of other things it's always good to inspect. As we already know, we've got all the fruiting bodies of the giant polypore, but when you look more closely as well, you've got like a type of celandine that's quite happily living amongst the root system. You can even see here, that looks like a baby yew tree to me, and there's another one there. So probably, I'm not sure, usually yew trees are in church grounds, but birds have been nibbling on the yew berries, probably quite high up in the canopy of this lovely beech tree. Seeds get dispersed, and then they take roots at the base of the tree. You tend to find that quite common with holly as well, because they're an understory species. Again, a bit of celandine and ivy, and then you've got another little yew tree there. So it's not always just about what's happening up in the canopy. There's a lot of understory plants here as well. I mean, you can see the shallow rooting here. So a couple of other things about copper beech. It's technically not a native species in the UK. It's common beeches, but copper beech is technically classed as the Woodland Trust classed it as a natural mutant. Perfectly naturalised in the UK, but on record not officially a native tree. But I've found, if anything, copper beech in Exeter, you're more likely to come across a copper beech tree than a common beech tree. But that's just my study that I've done so far. So let's have another quick look at this lovely tree, and I will take some photos and some other videos later. I love that smooth grey bark on a beech tree. One of its characteristic features is the smooth grey bark, which is both in young and old trees, which is quite unusual because you tend to find younger trees and older trees, the bark changes as it grows, as it matures, but beech trees have that smooth grey bark, and that will go right through from a young tree right through as it matures. Lovely. So getting back to copper beech, we've already discussed it's a sort of not native tree. The actual way this tree flowers, so this is a monoecious tree, which means the male and female flowers are on the same tree but different parts, and then the male flowers you tend to find between March and April, and then you might be lucky, you might be able to see on the ground some of the burrs. There we go. So this is the mast. If you can just about see that, within here would be 2 to 3 woody nuts. I can't break that, that's really tough. But squirrels and small birds will quite happily nibble on them. And sometimes you get what's called a mast year, which will then drop lots more of this than it would normally do. I mean, again, it's quite often, during even when it's not a mast year, the ground can be littered with what's known as beech mast, which is the sort of spiky burrs that contain the nuts. And I was hoping to find some better ones. There we go. This is probably a bit better. So if you ever come across these, you come across a beech tree, and you can see the seeds have come out. It's done its job, and it'd be nice to actually try and find some of them, but they've probably been eaten, or they've got so embedded into the ground. You see squirrels have been here because that's what's left of one. Aha, but here we go. This is one of the seeds, which I'll keep. And there will be hundreds here that I can't find, but there'll be 2 to 3 of these per burr or mast. And it's amazing, isn't it, that this tiny seed will eventually turn into this. And this isn't even technically fully mature yet. I've seen some beech trees with such a wide circumference. I mean, it's still a fantastic specimen, but I just find it incredible that how nature can change from this. And that's only what we can see above ground. I mean, below ground, if we had the technology to actually see the roots without disturbing or hurting them, it would be just as an amazing picture. So there we go. So we talked roughly about the reproductive cycle. As I said, the male flowers release the pollen sort of March, April time, and they're lovely to see, like dangling little flowers. Sort of, for a purple beech, they are roughly a purple colour. And then once they've done their job and the pollen's released, you get to the female flower, they get shed, and again the ground will be covered with old male flowers or catkins. And again during autumn, once the female flowers mature into the birds, the mast, their job is to get as many of these into the ground to continue the great circle of life. You can even see the triangular shape Wonderful. Unfortunately, this one's a little bit cracked, as you can see, so that might not make a fertile specimen, but never mind. I'll still keep it for memory. There's probably not too much more to say about this. As I said, it's not something that's going to be stopped. Once the council have made that decision to fell a tree based on the grounds of health and safety, and I've seen it before at Caroline Avenue back in 2019, I think, and that was actually, I think, was an even larger specimen than this, I believe. I'm sure it was wider, but I don't know about taller. But anyway, it was, again, a lovely specimen, and that unfortunately had the same problem where it was the giant polypore fungus. Again, it's we tend to be very reactive in this country when it comes to tree management. Again, that's just my honest opinion. There isn't enough effective aftercare. So for beech trees, again, these look quite gross, to be honest, I won't lie, but when they're not all squished and squashed, the giant polypores are actually very beautiful. However, for beech trees and a lot of other deciduous trees, they're bad news, because the way that they feed on the trees is weakening their structure, particularly roots. However, as I said, this isn't the first time this has happened. Beech trees, unfortunately, in Exeter do seem to be coming down quicker than they're going up, but we can learn lessons from this to try and prevent this from happening again and again and again. So, in other countries, and I think it was Sweden or Germany, some very clever people have designed, well, it's actually basically cultivated in a laboratory. So it's not uncommon, not just with animals, but in the plant kingdom, parasites. I mean, even mistletoe is a parasite, but it doesn't usually kill the tree. It just usually steals sugars and happily grows in the canopy on a branch somewhere. Now, our giant polypores here, which are, being honest, they are weakening the structure of this tree, but there are other fungus out there that actually parasitise other fungus. And what they've done, again, very clever science, is they've found this particular fungus that only parasitises this destructive fungus. They've then cultivated that and essentially applied that in either a spray or a formula with crystals. And it's designed so that on trees like the beech tree, you spray the ground, or you put these crystals that dissolve into the ground system around the base of the tree. And don't get me wrong, it's not something you do once to forget. It has to be done fairly frequently, maybe once, twice a year. But what you're doing then is that those fungus, which again were created, or again, it's all very clever science, but if they come across any of the destructive giant polypore fungus, they feed on that. And if there's none of that, they then die. So that you're not leaving any trace of anything that potentially would harm the copper beech. And again, it is a treatment, so it is something that has to be done several times a year. However, the value of that is that if it's done right, so the problem is doing it now, it's too late. And I did notice that on one of the letters that a local gave me, the council, in their defence, did say they tried treatment. Again, I'm not here to nitpick. The question really is, when was the treatment started, what type of treatment, and the frequency? If they were just putting some treatment down when they saw the fruiting spores, that's too late. Unfortunately, that's being honest. That's like having a really, even for people, going to hospital with a horrible illness, and if you catch it too late, there's not a great deal you can do sometimes. But again, I don't want to be morbid here. I'm just looking at it here, is that if we maybe learn from other countries on how they manage trees, we can use their methods that work, because prevention is better than cure. The only cure now and this is the way our tree strategy is in the UK, the only cure now to fix this problem is to destroy the tree. And that's actually, when you think about it, quite, well, it's terrible. And again, prevention is better than cure. And again, there's always going to be costs involved. You know, this stuff isn't free. It's somebody's time to cultivate that particular type of fungus, and then obviously it's got to be shipped from somewhere because it's probably not in the UK. But the cost to fell this tree, God, it's thousands, I'd imagine. Because it will take days. They won't get this done in a day. They'll have to take it in bits, and you know, it's a lot of work and a lot of money, public money. You've got to remember that we're paying for this tree to go. So, as I said, I would always question that if there's a way to stop this from happening, we should be looking at it, because they're doing it in other countries. And as I said, if we know something works elsewhere, surely we should be working with these people. But again, the biggest challenge you've got with that is in the UK, and I'm going to go sideways to politics now. Now I'm 40 years old, and all I've ever known in my life is bat and ball between Labour and Conservative. One gets in power, has a go at running the country, either does okay or does a particularly bad job, and then the other party gets in, and it's literally that ping pong between red and blue. And the environment always comes last when those two are in power. That's my opinion, but that's how I've seen it growing up from a child into an adult. Conservative and Labour, bat and ball, and we all know about the flipping backhanders and corruption between the two. That's by the by. If you want to see things change in this country, you need to get the Green Party in, because they will actually change things to make things better. We'll see less felling of mature trees, because they're the sort of people that are willing to get to the 21st century and work and collaborate with other people who actually care about the environment. And being honest, Conservative and Labour only care about their pension. And I'm bored of always voting for them, because every time I vote for them, I regret it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now, because it's 20 minutes of broadcasting. So again, this lovely copper beech tree, soon to go. Fantastic, isn't it? I mean, just look at all the different types of moss and lichen. So I'm not got the steadiest of hands. Again, I can't value this tree just by looking at it, because it's not really my area of expertise, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realise that the nature value of this tree alone is incredibly high. You know, if you were to try and do what humans do best, and that's put it into a money value, you try getting this from a garden centre. Cost you hundreds of thousands, and that's just for the value of the tree at its current worth. That's not for the value of the tree that it's delivered for the decades that it's been here. And again, the criminal part here is it will get replaced with two, maybe 4 trees if we're lucky, months later, miles away from the site scene. So, as I said, there's a lot of things in Exeter that need to change. And again, not blaming the parks team, not blaming the tree team. They're up against it. They've got a really crappy budget to work with, and they've got this constant nonsense of politics between Labour and Conservative. And again, all that seems to those two parties care about is the housing crisis. As long as that box is ticked, nothing else matters. And I'll tell you what, it's that mentality that's going to destroy this country. Yes, people need a home, but ploughing on every single piece of land and having no effective environmental or tree strategy to take us into the 21st and 22nd century, we just do things like we've done for the past 100 years. So anyway, you want to see positive change, get the Green Party in, because they'll make it a lot easier for the people that actually do the work and try and make it better. But as I said, it's money that stops this from happening, and the money's controlled by Labour and Conservatives. So anyway, this fantastic beech tree, and we should always name trees. I think trees need to be personalised more for what they do. So if you've got a name you want to give this tree, please pop on the comments below. But the sad part is, today's the 16th. Unless there's some sort of bad weather or sudden U-turn on when to do it, this tree's going to be gone in less than 2 weeks' time. As I said, I can't change that. Their mind is set. And if anybody wants some yew tree saplings, you might be lucky to be able to dig them out and plant them. But bearing in mind, yew is highly toxic. Beautiful trees, highly toxic. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll add some more notes later. As I said, I came here and it was blue skies and now it's raining, but you can't control the weather, but you certainly can control how you manage trees. Thank you very much, tree. As I said, I haven't given you a name yet. But thank you for everything you've done for us. And I'm sorry that we neglected your care, because I think if we had been a bit more proactive with basic tree care, this could have been avoided. And that's my honest opinion of that. We tend to plant them in the ground and walk away. You only have to walk down High Street to see all the trees swallowing the tree cages. And what's going on there? But of course, that's Devon County Council, because they're not park trees, they're street trees. They should be practically monitoring that. But the trees will swallow the cages and then it'll be too late, because you'll end up killing the tree if you try and take the cage out of them. But as I said, that's just another example of poor aftercare of trees. And they're not even mature trees, the ones in Sidwell Street and High Street in Exeter, compared to this anyway. So I just find it comical that we can't even manage a few trees in the centre of the city centre. Right, well I think I'm pretty much done. One other thing I will finish on, which is useful, you should always be able to identify trees by what you can see. That's what a leaf looks like from a beech tree. At this time of the year, whether it's a common or copper beech, they're going to look pretty much like this. It's only when it's in growing season or at the end of summer for a copper beech that you would see a lovely purple sort of colour. But at this time of the year, it's going to be your typical sort of brown. But as I said, the edges are wavy, like point, and that's how you would be able to distinguish a beech tree. And if we're lucky, I'm going to put this seed down actually, because it doesn't look like it's going to make viable fruit.